Yo, we're at my Mike Sounds Nice podcast. We have a special guest today, Tony A. the Wizard on the mic. We're going to chop it up with him, see if we can pull some hip-hop out of him, see if he can give us some great stories, kind of track a little bit of this West Coast movement that he helped start, along with a lot of other West Coast artists that you know. Welcome, man. Thank you for coming out today.
What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm
Thank
doing
you for having me. It's a blessing to be here.
And so I'm glad you showed up. I'm glad you're here. I'm just been super excited about it for like the last 2 weeks. We've been talking about, you just been giving us gems and stories and everything. So I kind of want to start off in the beginning. What was something how did you get started in hip hop? What made you think you wanted to start DJing or kind of get involved with this? What is something that triggered you to make you take this route?
Well, it's such a dope question, and I'll tell you why. And usually when I give this answer, people trip out. That the very first time I ever went to a nightclub, I was 11 years old. And at that time, there was really no hip hop. I think we started hearing a little bit of Rapper's Delight. And even though that was a huge song, the next rap song that I actually heard was by a woman named Blondie on a song called Rapture.
Right. I remember that one.
But my brother was a DJ at a club in Long Beach. And the club had 3 different names. It was weird because it started out with Noah's Ark, eventually new management, and it came out to be Grand Central Station, and then eventually another management, Infinity. And those were the names of the same club, if you will. And I remember in 6th grade, I was doing really, really bad in school. But every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, my brother would always go out to this club in Long Beach. I would always see him get dressed up, nice shirts, nice pants, and his records. And one day I said, I want to go with you. And he said, I ain't taking you nowhere. That's what he told me. He said, because you're doing bad in school. So I went in his room and I said, hey, look, if I do good in school, would you take me? Because this was the 18 and over club.
Right, okay.
And he said, yeah, I'll take you with me. And since I was always tall, I could possibly pass for an 18-year-old, even though I was 11. So I graduated the 6th grade. I remember I was wearing a 3-piece polyester blue suit from Kmart that my mother bought me. The only thing different for me is that I combed my hair to the side that day because I used to always part my hair in the middle. And it was weird. I had just got home from graduation. It was a Friday night, and I told him, I said, hey, I graduated. Back then we graduated from 6th grade. And he said, okay, then get dressed. We're going to leave in about an hour. And I said, well, I'm already dressed. Yeah, right. So I just went with my graduation suit. And I got to see him DJ, and I'll tell you what really, really captivated me about wanting to become a DJ was that I saw him control the crowd with music. Back then we had live drummer music, for an example. He was playing a lot of Prince. He was playing a lot of Ray Parker Jr., Young and Company, Evelyn King Champagne. There wasn't much stuff done with drum machines.
Right, okay.
So for him, and I would always see him ride the record when he would blend. So I would always ask him, why are you moving the record when you're blending it? And he told me, well, it's because they're live drummers. You have to stay with them. I really didn't quite understand that yet, being an 11-year-old. And back then, blending wasn't crossfader. It was actually up and down.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you kind of had to mix them together.
Yes.
I have an old mixer where we used to sit in a club, and it was kind of like that. You had to kind of get just the right sound. That's
and always with the headphone like this.
Right.
He was always blending like this, playing with the record. And I would see sometimes when the crowd would just erupt because he would drop a certain song at a certain time of the night, and the crowd just went crazy. And at that time, I said, wow, this is what I want to do at 11 years old.
Yeah.
But I do want to encourage anybody, if you have an 11-year-old kids, we really have no business being in a nightclub.
So that kind of shaped you. Like you said that you're watching him DJ and you're seeing the crowd erupt. So did you immediately go right after that and start like getting turntables, or did you mess up your dad's old records, or like how does it? Because I know I wanted to DJ at one point, and my mom caught me like trying to on her record. Man, she wants to tore me up. She's like, no, yes. we don't do that.
Well, it's funny because soon after that. A lot of people don't know that I was popping at that time. And my very first job was selling records at 11 years old. Soon after that, I started selling records at a swamp meet called the Vermont Swamp Meet for a man named Steve Yano. And I sold records there for about 3 years. So what I was doing, I was saving actually buying records with the $20 that he was giving me. I will buy one record. It was an album was like $6.99 at that time. A 12-inch was either $2.99 or $3.99, somewhere around there. And the rest of the money I would blow in arcade, because I used to love Star Castle, Asteroids,
Nice.
Galaga, and all that fun stuff. But I started out very, very young. But it was my sisters who was buying records like Queen. I remember that was one of the first ones. My brother had a record, Le Chic, Good Times. And all we had was a home stereo. But it wasn't until a friend named Nathan Gale, may he rest in peace, when I went to junior high school, back then junior high school started at 7th grade, when he let me borrow a record. And that's literally what changed like my whole world.
Really? Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So he just let you borrow the records, you kind of took them home, another record player, and you just kind of started...
Well, it was funny because he comes up to me and I told him I want to be a DJ. He was my good friend. He was popping was fading out and breaking was taking over.
Right, okay.
So he was a breaker. And one day he told me, he said, "What do you know about scratching?" Now, I'll be honest with you. At that time, I'm thinking, what? I'd never heard of it. Right. And he said, yeah. He goes, I have a record by Grandmaster Flash and On the Wheels of Steel. He said, I'll let you borrow it. And I go, and what does he do? He goes, he's scratching. And I was like, I know, but what is that? And he said, well, I'm not quite sure how he does it, but he almost goes forward, backwards. He goes, that's what it sounds like he's doing. So I'm intrigued because at that time, I'm only thinking blending songs into songs. So he lets me borrow the record. I go home and I play it. And it's weird that he was scratching Le Chic and Queen, Another One Bites the Dust. Also the same records that we had at the house.
Oh, right. So that's something you can practice with and listen, kind of mimic that a little bit?
That's exactly what I did. And it was weird because on Good Times, I heard him for the first time ever do a good. And I remembered that. So I'm like, how is he doing it? So now they were talking about breaking and DJing on TV. And it was just like perfect timing. And then they said, and Grandmaster Flash, and I turned around and they showed him picking up needles, doing scratching, and he turned around and he controlled the fader. And that right there changed my whole world. I was like, okay, now I know what he does. He turns on the volume, turns it off. Turns on the volume, turns it off. All we had was a house stereo. So it was a round fader.
Right, I remember those, okay.
So I had no scratch pad and I was scratching the hell out of my sister's records. So I had Good Times and here I was. Good, and that's how I started.
Oh, wow. Okay,
good.
Okay, nice.
So that was the beginning of my scratching career.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So now you said, you were actually popping before you started DJing, whatever. And I know we were talking off camera a little bit, but you said that you knew one of the kind of famous poppers. The one that I first kind of noticed was you said Turbo.
Yes.
That's one of the first ones I've ever remember because I remember watching Breaking.
Yeah.
But that was the first time I was actually kind of getting into. I was like maybe 6, 7, 8, whatever, around that age. But that was like first time I really got my full taste of hip hop. First taste of hip hop was Run DMC, and one of my cousins played in the back. She threw it on. I was mind blown or whatever. But as far as popping and knowing some of those people that have kind of helped, I guess for me, like visualize it as a young kid. Like didn't know anything about rap, but I'm looking at that and they're popping, they're locking. I'm into it. You said that was one that you start off. You knew them. How does that feel? Like I guess for pop locking or popping and locking. I know it's two different things.
Yes.
Popping and locking. How does that feel to do that and then know some people that help kind of set the foundation for that?
It's. I remember being in 6th grade and one of my friends was in 7th grade, and I couldn't wait to get to junior high school because for some reason all the best poppers from my city of Wilmington, city of Carson, were all either in junior high or in high school already. So I really couldn't wait to leave elementary school to get up there because I really wanted to learn how to pop. So one of my friends told me, I know a guy, Michael Chambers, do you know Boogaloo Shrimp? And I was like, no. He goes, yeah, he's one of the best poppers out here. But there was also a guy named Cricket. There was also a guy named Kenny Man, a guy named Hollywood, a guy named Fish. Now, keep in mind, this was when popping, at least in my opinion, was at its purest form. And the reason why I say that, because nobody was doing the arm wave. It hadn't come in yet.
I got you. Okay. No.
Everything was popping, ticking. twist up legs popping up off the wall.
Right. Okay.
And about the only waving that people did was the stomach wave. That was it. People would actually do
I
this,
remember that.
or kind of like do this, one of these waves. And Boogaloo Shrimp was the only guy who was into not so much popping, but it was more a movement, more waves. And one of my friends told me I could introduce you to him and he could teach you how to pop. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah. I met him the next day. And from there, we kind of became pretty close friends where the whole summer from 6th grade going into 7th grade, he taught me how to pop.
Wow.
And here's the funny story about that is that because there were guys in my city, in my neighborhood, that were way better than him. Way better. Not to say that he was weak, but they were on a whole different other level than him. And he knew it, and he would never go against them. What made him different was that he had a personality, he had a character. And those other guys stopped, they were gangbanging, they were slanging, and he went up.
And you think that the personalities would kind of help him shine, kind of gave people that, oh, okay, well, whatever, because everybody else is they're gangsters,
Yes.
Gangsters kind of got to keep a low. You can't be too happy as a gang. Oh, man, I know I've never been a gangster, but I know when I've been around gangsters, they either they're happy with you, they're kind of having a good time, but they gotta still keep you don't want to mess with me too much demeanor. So you think that kind of will help him rise up?
Oh, absolutely. One thing about him that he was always making funny faces, noises. He was always clowning around, always telling jokes. He was always goofing off, and I think somebody saw that and said, "This will look great on film." Because the other guys, let me tell you something about those other guys. Because I remember one time I wanted to see this one guy, McKinney, man. He was from the city of Carson, but it was always in Wilmington. And I told him, man, I want to see you pop. And he always had a real serious face. He goes, why? Who are you? Do I know you? Yeah. He was gangster with me.
Right.
So one day, Boogaloo Shrimp told me, just call him out, pop against him. I knew he was going to tear me up, but he says, that's the way you'll see him. So I did, and I just started popping, and the guy did some moves he did a tut move, and he started moving. Oh my God, bro.
Incredible, huh?
Incredible. And I just told him that's all I wanted to see.
That's
that the legend is true. You are that good.
So let's say we're in the club here. You say you're about 11. You're in the club. You're mixing. You're kind of getting your DJ started. How did High C and you get started as far as making music and really just setting hip hop? Really just like setting us a foundation music that I still listen to even now. You'll come, oh yeah, that's my joint. Like, how does that set up now? How does that meeting? How does you guys start making hip hop and really get put on?
Yeah. It was a long story short. Was I started making mixtapes for and when I say mixtapes, they were on cassette. Today mixtapes is totally different.
Right.
These were on cassette and they were done on 4-track. Most people thought I was doing them on 4 turntables. No, it was a Tascam Porta 1 4-track. You can Google it and see it. I was doing them for this guy named Steve, the guy who gave me my first job. Dr. Dre was doing mixtapes for him before I was. Dre did them from 84 to 87. Now, when I say Dr. Dre, we're talking about NWA, World Class Wrecking Crew, the billionaire Dr. Dre.
Billionaire Dr. Dre, Beats, headphones.
Yes.
Okay.
So he did it from 84 to 87. I got reacquainted with my friend Steve in 87. So I was about 19 years old when I met Dre, Jinx, and Easy. Sir Jinx being Dre's cousin. I met Dre around the time in the movie Straight Outta Compton when he leaves his mom's house to go live with his cousin Jinx. Okay. It was around that time when I met them. And I was introduced to Eazy-E as Eric. He wasn't Eazy-E just yet. They were barely working on a demo called LA's the Place, Fat Girl on My Jock, Boys in the Hood wasn't done yet.
Okay.
And what happened was Dre got so busy doing the whole Ruthless projects that he pretty much told me, he said, you know what, you should take over making the mixtapes. So Steve said, let's go. He already knew I was a pretty well-known, good DJ. So from 87 to 91, I started doing the mixtapes. Now, I want to say from 87 to, I want to say 89, Dre, Eazy-E, Ren, Ice Cube, JJ Fad, even Michelet had a little cameo appearance, Crazy D, Sir Jinx, all of them were rapping on my mixtapes. And that's what pretty much gave me a huge street buzz. And for people have to understand that we had no social media. That was our social media.
Right. The mixtape was actually you putting it. Yeah, okay.
So what happened was when Dre got so busy and he took off on tour, I had nobody else rapping on my mixtapes. So Steve Yano, the guy that I'm doing these mixtapes for, tells me there's a guy at the end of the swap meet. His name's High C. He's a blood. He's from Compton. He's about 17 years old, and he wants to rap on these mixtapes. So I said, well, okay, well, let me go ahead and meet him. Went out there and met him. Came over to my house. He rapped. Eventually, we ended up performing at his high school, Centennial High School in Compton. And I saw the way he engaged the crowd. I wasn't so fond of his rap style because it was very elementary, but he had a good voice, and the way he engaged the crowd was appealing to me. I told Steve, let's go ahead and put him on a couple of mixtapes. So we did. We put him on 3 or 4 mixtapes. I know the first one he rapped Funky Cole Medina. After that, he did a different genre, which is house music. House music was coming in. So he rapped to a house song, and then we finally did a hip hop song on a mixtape, or should I say hip hop instrumental, where he rapped and he sounded good. So eventually after that, we did like a demo, if you will, of a song called I'm Not Your Puppet on a mixtape. 2 months later, we did somewhat of a follow-up to that song called Sitting in the Park. Right. And that song, or should I say those mixtapes, actually caught the ears or the attention of music executives at Disney, wow. Who were about to open up a record label called Hollywood Records.
Wow. So now they caught the ear. They're listening to the kind of I guess the old school, new high, like a new hip hop mix blend, and then so they came seeking for you after that. They came looking for you.
Yes, yeah. There was a guy that came to the swap meet, and he actually had the tape with him, and I remember he went up to the stand. Now, people always ask me, well, how did he know where to go look for you guys? Because on the mixtapes, it would say who the rapper was, who they're making the mixtapes for, and what was the name of the swap meet, the Rhodium swap meet in the city of Gardena. So he came down, had the cassette, and asked Steve at his stand. I was outside of his stand by a snack bar. He always got the stand by the snack bar because that's where all the traffic is.
Right.
And that's where he would crank up the music, So this guy says, I'm looking for whoever made this tape. And he was waving at it, and Steve thought it was a guy there trying to bust us for bootleg records. Or bootleg cassettes, I should say. So he points at me and goes, he did it. He does them. And then I said, wait a minute. He sells them. I do them for him. And the guy said, well, who is High C? Because that name of the demo, I'm Not Your Puppet, was on a mixtape called High C. We would name the mixtapes or whatever was going on at that time, whatever was relevant. That's what we named it. So I told Steve, I already have somewhat of a name on the street because I've been doing them since 87.
Right.
This is 89. Let's name this tape High C. So he takes it a step further. He goes, okay, well, who is the guy rapping on it? And Steve goes, oh, that's High C. He sells in the back of the swap meet. Take him over there, Tony. So we go over there. And I introduced him, and I said, hey, High C, this is so-and-so, High C. And he says, hey, listen, this landed in the desk at my office. I came here. I'm an A&R. I need to sign some acts. I want you guys to be the first rap act to be signed to Disney Hollywood Records. So I want to set up a meeting with you guys, and we'll go first. I want to offer you guys a single deal. We'll see how the single does. And if it does well, then we'll go ahead and sign you to an album deal. Now, I'll be honest with you. I didn't know what the hell he was going to sign us to because I was just a DJ and a mixtape guy. I was not a producer. So we ended up having our first meeting. They wanted to give us $40,000 for our first single, which was I'm Not Your Puppet.
Right, okay.
So I told Steve, look, of course I want the money. I said, but I don't know how to produce. So that's when he tells me, oh, don't worry about it. I'll get you a drum machine and I'll take you to Dre's, Dr. Dre's, and he'll show you how to use it.
Wow, okay, wow.
So that's pretty much how I learned. So he bought me the drum machine, SP1200. So I had it. I remember the manual was about this big, like a damn phone book.
Right, all the different.
And he goes, just read it. And I said, I ain't reading that shit. That's exactly what I told him. I said, I ain't reading that. And he was
it probably reads like stereo instructions too,
Exactly, I was more the type of guy that turn it on and start banging away. So it didn't come with preset sounds.
Okay.
It was a sampling drum machine that we had to sample our own. So he takes me to his apartment, Dre's apartment in Paramount. At the time, he was living in Paramount. And I remember it was so weird because it's a funny story. I knock on the door, and a little kid answers the door, and this person says, "Hello," real high pitched voice, and I was like, "Is your dad there?" Who? And I was like, "Your dad." And she goes, "My dad," and I go, "Yes." I said, "Dre, Dr. Dre." She opens the door and it's Miss Chalet.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh shoot!" I didn't know who that was yet, and well, what happened was she let us in this apartment, and that apartment was absolutely empty.
Wow.
Like there was nothing there. So Dre comes out of the room, and I go, where are we gonna set the drum and the turntable and the mixer up? And he goes, "Set it on the floor." And I was like, oh, "Okay, you don't have a table?" He goes, "No." And I go, "Did you just move in?" I didn't know him that good to
Yeah.
really feel comfortable to ask him, "Why is this place empty?"
Right.
So I just said, "Did you just move in?" And he was like, "No, I've been here for 6 months." So I was like, okay. So I didn't know what to say.
Right.
So there I am plugging in the drum machine, the mixer, and the turntable. And it was so weird, man. We both laid on our stomachs, and there he is, showing me how to sample. And he tells me, this drum machine has 10 seconds. Each pad is 2.5 seconds. So this drum machine, you're going to be forced to get creative. So he sampled the snare in front of me. He goes, always put the kick, the boom, boom, boom. That's what he said it. On pad 1, the snare on pad 2, the hat on pad 3. He said, and the crash on pad 4. So that way they're close together. And he was like, boom, 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 boom. Then he started like, boy, I tell you what, I was just fascinated just watching him, And then he goes, over here, you put it on song mode, you record it, then it'll loop for 2 bars. What's a bar? Well, count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1 bar.
Right.
He said on the second bar, don't start with 1, start with 2.
Right. 2.
So, yeah, then 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, and then that's how I learned that day. And he goes, "You don't want to write this down?" I said, "I'll remember it," and I did. So after that, me and Jinx were hanging out, his cousin, and Jinx showed me a couple of things. So I was always blessed and fortunate to meet the right guys.
Right.
So I can't really sit here and say those are just the homies from the hood. No, they weren't. All these connections came through Steve Yano.
Wow, that's incredible. Actually, that's pretty incredible. Okay, so now I'm going to progress a little bit further. So now you got signed. You got there. I'm Not Your Puppet. I think that was the first record that
first
came
single,
out.
yes.
The first record that comes out. You get ready to tour. What is your mentality? Let's say you want to be a DJ, starting off from youngster. Now you've been working with Dre, who's not quite known yet, but he's getting there, right?
Yes.
Okay, and now you're signed. You're getting ready, whatever. What is your mentality on now? You're basically a hip hop star coming up. You're basically getting your career going. What is your mentality when you're thinking, or when that's happening, or when you're in the mood of that? Like, what's in your mind?
Well, we were really excited to start touring, start doing shows. We did a lot of practicing. Now, keep in mind, I have been DJing. I want to say I consider myself to be called a DJ in the 8th grade when I started DJing noon dances at school. So being in front of a crowd, I want to say I had the jitters taken out of me since junior high school. And back then I was DJing with a cassette deck, a mixer, and 1 turntable.
Wow.
That's what I was DJing 30-minute noon dances. And so I was so used to the record skipping or the tape deck stopping. So I was kind of used to being in front of a crowd. High C, not so much, because one of our first shows, we had like over 2,000 people there.
Wow.
And I saw in his performance that he was going really fast. He forgot some of his lyrics. He was sweating a lot. So I convinced him, let me get a little DJ cut and scratch
In between that.
in between to give you a little space. You gather yourself. So we did that. And I was at that point at the top of my turntable game. I want to say this, that other than maybe Tony G, Aladdin, and like Joe Cooley, who was my mentor at DJing, I was not afraid to go up against anybody when it came to my turntable skills. And so I was always showing out, cutting and scratching, and needles never skipped on me because I was always so used to it. But our mentality was, let us go out there and have one of the dopest shows ever. And traveling with guys like Second to None, AMG, and DJ Quick, I will say this. Quick, to me, was a natural at performing.
Nice. Okay, so just picked it up automatically. Just was able to.
Yes. High C was a little nervous, I think out of all of them, I think he was a little nervous because all those guys were doing their shows together. We had our separate shows that Disney actually plugged in for us. And then we would meet up with these guys, do about 4 or 5 shows, and then split apart. So he knew a couple of times he had a headline.
Wow. Okay.
So
Wow.
it was pretty nerve-wracking because we try to come up with a different show every single time. And, we were still working on our album, so our songs weren't really, really new. So in the beginning, we would I said, let's start off with some intro music. Come out there, hype up the crowd. I'll cut and scratch. Say my name. We'll do the first song. Talk to the crowd. Like, we pretty much, that's how.
Set up the whole,
Yeah.
the minute for minute of how it's going to work. That's nice. So, I'm kind of, I guess, a little off track there. What do you think about, I guess, performances now of MCs that you see maybe getting on stage compared to when you were doing it? What do you see the comparison? Like, is there a little bit, do you think they're more prepared now? Or do you think, like, you guys are more prepared back then? Do you think the music is the same? Is it kind of a different?
I thought the performances back then were better. When I say performances, by the artist, the way he engaged with the crowd. And I'll tell you why. Because today, if you have, and I'm just using this person because it's the first person that came to my mind, a Beyonce. I would like to see like a today's type of star go out there by herself and just rock it.
Right. Just her and her music with
Yes.
the crowd and interacting. I got you.
See, and that's what we had back then. Today, you guys have like 100 dancers up there, explosions, laser shows, stage picking them up, and I get it. It's all a part of the business, and things are better now. But I remember one of the guys that like literally gave me the chills. I saw KRS-One perform, and he couldn't even finish his lyrics because the crowd knew his lyrics. He had a guy just beatboxing because he wasn't even supposed to perform that day.
Wow.
And I remember the guy did "Love's Gonna Get You," and he would just be boom, 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 boom. So the crowd just started saying his lyrics.
Right.
Dude, I just got goosebumps. I'm like, this is it. I could just die now.
Right.
To me, that was hip hop, and I would see Quick go out there and do it. Second to None go out there and do it. I would see Cypress Hill got Daz Effects, EPMD go out there and do it, and just music, DJ, the crowd.
Right. I kind of miss that a little bit too. Sometimes I think the overhyped screen, like I'll go to concerts and I'll see the big mega screen. I know they got to do that for because they got 40,000 plus and whatever. But I'm
Right.
like, I kind of remember like some of my first shows. It was like you said, just DJ me and he's rocking. If he's not really MC, he's not rocking the crowd. You're gonna let you know about it. Like, this is not it. But if he is rocking the crowd is into it. Like you said, like
Yes.
KRS-One. I've seen KRS-One literally stop his show and say, okay, we're the MCs in the crowd today. And then let them rock for 10 minutes, just a random MC in the crowd, like, yo, come up here and rock your stuff, whatever, and rock the crowd. Like, that is incredible. Like, that's like real hip hop to me. It's like,
Yes.
that's, okay, yeah, I'm doing my set. Wait, we got some real MCs in the house here. You get on the mic a little bit. I know I got whatever. I'm gonna show you some shine, whatever. That's the ultimate hip hop to me.
Let me say this, and I'm somewhat embarrassed to say this, but I'm going to say it because I got paid. I just won't mention their names. Okay. I know a lot of rappers that have told me, I'm not going to rap it. I'm just going to lip sync it. This is because I can't. Some guys told me I'm out of shape. I got too many songs. I can't do it. Another guy straight told me I'm too high. He said, I'm just going to mumble it and just play my song. People will never know. I'll just hold the mic. So a lot of times, if you guys see a guy that he's holding the mic all the way to the edge,
right,
and he has it up to his mouth, he's lip syncing.
Covering his mouth, huh?
Yeah, he's lip syncing. And I've done it for a lot of guys, and they paid me. And I had so many guys so unorganized, literally. So last year, a well-known rapper had no more music. Like when I say by no more music, he didn't even have it on a CD. Usually most guys have it on an instant replay machine, or people have it on their Serato and they just play it. This guy told me, man, just play my cassette.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, dude, you're a multi-platinum artist. What the hell are you doing with a cassette? Just play the cassette. Nobody will ever know. So I'm up there, and I bring a cassette player from home. Click.
Right. That's crazy.
So
I'm a little underground rapper, so I do a lot of underground shows and things like that. And I think one of my, I don't say pet peeves. I know rappers got to do what they got to do, but I always see rappers rapping over their lyrics. And me and my cousin rap together. So anytime I mess up on a show, my cousin's like, "Yo, man, you messed up," whatever. I tell him like, "Well, guys just played their song," so I'm like, you know, whatever. You know, I might have messed up, but sometimes they just, you know, some guy just pushed whatever and played the song. And I'm not, you know, if that's what you guys want to do, that's whatever. I get a kind of a buzz of knowing the crowd's rocking with my real lyrics, whatever. But what do you think about the way hip hop is now compared to how hip hop was when you first started and seen it grow to where it is now?
It's hard for me to call it hip hop today. It really is. And I'll tell you what I see today compared to then. Today, this generation sees hip hop as Little Pump, Tekashi, Travis Scott, Migos, Little Xan, you know, just to name a few, okay? My sons, they look at me and say, "Oh, Dad, you're just hating on them. Dad, you're just..." And I tell them, I say, stop. I love hip hop. I love hip hop. This to me isn't hip hop. I just don't see it. I said, let me ask you guys a question. This was last year. My son at that time was 27 and 18. I said, what are the 4 elements of hip hop? And they didn't know. So I taught them. I shared with them the 4 elements of hip hop, and I said, I don't see that in this.
Right.
And I said, and he goes, well, you know, it changed. And I said, maybe it did, but I just don't like it. Don't ask me to like it.
Yeah, I understand that too.
You know, and because I don't like it, you can't be called a hater. You know, if you tell me, Dad, he wants some mint chip ice cream, and I say no, you're not going to call me a hater for that.
Right, you just don't like mint chip,
I just don't like it, you know. So that's the way I feel about music. I just think that we had less resources then, and music was better. Today we have more, and you're in and out in a month. You could be the internet sensation of the month, and then next month it's the next guy.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And I think music comes out so fast now. Like I used to really be hyped about seeing a CD come out, or really hyped about seeing, like, I'll read the source or you read a Vibe or something. You see the pitch or whatever, and it might not come out for 4 months or whatever. But I'm geeked about it, like, oh man, this is coming. The next, the next ad might show a couple who's featured on it or something like that. And I think like all of us, like I forgot, but the albums, like I'll actually literally wake up in the morning and there's an album out, and I'm like, I didn't even know this was coming. Like I didn't have that idea that this was even being promoted.
I've been on Instagram for maybe about 2.5 years, okay? And I go on the search sometimes, and I just see what's on there. And I saw a guy the other day with tattoos all over his face, a young brother dude, dreadlocks. And I just go on his page, and he had like over 50,000 followers. And I was looking at his concerts, and at least they looked sold out. Either he was opening for somebody or he was headlining. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, who in the hell is this guy now? A couple of days later, I'll go on to see another Chicano dude, maybe tattoo LA all over his head, and he's got maybe 1 million followers. He's got over 20,000 likes, and I'm like, who in the hell is this guy? Right. I mean, I've been in this game for a long time, and I'm thinking, back then we were able to track who's coming out, who's what. East Coast had their sound.
Right.
West Coast had their sound. You knew who was who. Today, you can't tell.
Yeah, that's very true. We've done, like I said, minor tours around, and I've noticed when I've toured in Seattle, there's everybody rapping like down south. When I come down to LA is about the only place I've found that still kind of has their own sound. Uh-huh. But I go to Atlanta, everybody sounds like the down south. We went to New York perform. The New York rappers were rapping like they were down south, and I was telling my cousin, like, that's bogs my mind. I'm over here, in Queens, and there's 9 out of 10 rappers are all doing that down south bounce, and I'm surprised by it. Like
I don't get it. Like I told my son, I said, because he was giving me a couple of songs to listen to, and I go, well, you notice that every one of those rappers starts off with yeah. And is that like a check or a cue or something? Yeah, and then they have these 4-word rhymes. Yeah,
that's it.
And I'm like, 4-word rhymes. And I made up like a freestyle, like, and I even made up like a chorus, like, "Girl, what you drink?" Girl, and my son was like, "Dad, I think that could work," and I was like, "No."
You're like, don't run it.
Yeah, but that's simple. I would listen to some of these beats, and I go, "That's like a 5 minute beat." I took it to my studio, and I would start doing it, and they were like, "You should start producing." No, no,
yeah.
I'm not going to contribute to
To
something
this,
that I
right,
don't like.
right, right. You're not
So-
gonna add a sound to it there. So I'm a big elements person. Like I love DJing, I love graffiti art, I love, like I said, breaking, popping, locking, and of course I love MCing. I love writing rhymes. I think the culture has moved away from that, and the rapper is the only showcase because maybe that's where the money is. Maybe DJs and graffiti artists are not getting paid like that. What is your take on, I guess, on the elements, and what do you think about the elements of hip hop and where they're at now, where they were before, and what's
Well, what to me, in my opinion, not only a tattoo artist, not only a guy that painted cars and painted murals on cars, but to me, one of the best bombers. Back then we called them bombers, or they call them taggers, I guess.
yeah.
Was a guy named of Mr. Cartoon, and he's from the Harbor area, he's from San Pedro. He actually sold in back of Steve Yano's Swap Meet stand, where the same Swap Meet where NWA and where I met High C. That's where he got his start. I actually still have a actual flyer that he would go out and hand out.
Wow, okay.
So that people could come and get their shirt airbrush. I was one of his first sponsors, if you will, because he used to tell me, whenever you go DJ, if I hook you up a shirt, would you tell people who you got it from?
That's dope.
I said, okay, cool. So he did me like 2 shirts like that. So I know that's one of the elements of hip hop is graffiti. Okay, one of the best poppers that I ever met that I grew up with was Michael Chambers' Boogaloo Shrimp Turbo. Okay, so I saw it breaking and popping, growing in my neighborhood by one of the best who ended up becoming a movie star. One of the best DJs in the world, in my opinion, a guy from Compton, DJ Joe Cooley. I met him when I was about 14, 15 years old.
Joe Cooley?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Rodney on Joe Cooley.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he taught me how to be slick and how to be dope on the turntables. By watching him, I memorized everything. So those are 3 elements of hip hop. When it comes to MCing, I helped certain MCs, not a lot, come up with ideas for choruses, ideas for names, ideas for album names. So I threw in my 2 cents in. So I love all of those elements of hip hop. Today, I have a hard time with today's music because I don't see that.
Right.
Everything is, I want to wear Gucci slippers, a Ferragamo belt, a weird hairstyle. I want to tattoo my face. I want to be a loser, take drugs, and girls are going to go crazy over me.
Very true. And then a lot of that, the message is the same. I remember you could have, I could have my conscious rap, I could have my gangster rap, I could have my fun rap, like the digital undergrounds type stuff. I could
Yes.
have all that different, like whatever. But now it seems like everything is has to be this in order to be listened to. So now we were talking off camera a little bit, and you said that one of my favorite movies of all time, I've watched probably a million times, Menace to Society. You said that you had a chance to meet the directors of that, and that you actually kind of friended them. You're good, like friends with them, and you actually gave them a little insight on the movie. Can you talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
I met Alan and Albert. If I'm correct, they were in the early 20s. I want to say about 20 or 21. And they had just graduated college, I guess film school, I should say. And they were looking for work. And so they went up to Disney. How they got that plug, I have no idea. But we met them at the Disney studio. And we were told for our second video that these guys want to help us because our first video, we paid $25,000 for I'm Not Your Puppet that was filmed at the Rhodium because that's where it all started. So, but we had a guy from Australia that did a really horrible job for that budget, like really horrible. So we wanted to break away from him because he wanted to start pre-production for our next one. So they said, we got these young guys. And I remember a couple of guys from our camp were like, we don't know about these young guys or whatnot. I met them, and right away they started pitching their ideas of what I want to do. And one of the things that they said to me, Alan and Albert, they said, one thing that a lot of rappers are getting away from is they have a dope DJ, but they don't feature him enough. They don't put him out there enough.
Right.
He said, we want you side by side with him. We want to bring you out. So I told Steve, I'm good with that if you're good with that. Steve being our manager. And High C said, let's go with it. So they did our first video, Leave My Curls Alone. That was the name of the song. Then we did Sitting in the Park. That was filmed at, our first one was Venice Beach. Our second one was filmed at Echo Park in LA. Then we were about to do another one for a song called Froggy Style. But things happened where they got so busy, they started doing stuff for Pac. Brenda's Got a Baby.
Right, okay.
Then they did stuff for MC8. Then they got into the movie thing. Okay. And I remember they hit me up. And on my first album, we had a song called Yo Dick. And I sampled some Al Green. And Albert and Alan always loved how I mixed old school oldies with some hip hop beats, and that was just my style. I can't really say I invented it, but that's just what I like doing. I started on some mixtapes, caught their ear, they liked it, so they told me we're gonna start this movie, but what kind of songs can we play, in between, like a car scene, and I started mentioning Al Green, Marvin Gaye, a song that's never been used in a movie was like Atomic Dog. And okay, cool. Before you know it, it was in the movie, and they actually gave me a script and they were going to give me a cameo part. But during that time, I should have made time, but I didn't. There's a part in the movie where the guy wants to get the 5.0 different license plates.
Right,
he
right.
goes to see the mechanic.
I remember that part. Yeah, okay.
That was supposed to be me.
Wow. Okay.
And I remember I had the script and I read it. It wasn't a big, dialogue, but I just never went.
Wow. Okay.
So they ended up getting somebody else. And, my son always tells me, well, why didn't you go? And I said, I was busy. I had calls from like Lighter Shade of Brown,
Right.
Frost, that wanted some music from me. So I'm thinking, you know what? I'm not going to get paid for that. But over here, I'm getting paid 5 Gs.
Right. Yeah. Right. That makes sense.
So, but I really wish I could have, because I don't know where that relationship could have gone.
Right. When doors may have opened after that.
Exactly.
Then? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So yes, I wish I still had the script. I remember I even threw it away, man.
Oh wow. Wow.
Yeah, it was a red cover script about this big, and he was telling me that again, Tupac was an unknown, but I had already met Tupac in 1992 at a convention called the Gavin in San Francisco. After that, I met Shock G. It was so weird, man. One of the highlights of my career was I'm walking out of my room. I see Shock G from Digital Underground.
Right. Okay.
To me, that's freaking Shock G. Okay. He as we're walking, he sees me and he goes, Tony A.
Wow. Okay.
And he recognized me. And I swear to you, when people have done that to me, I've done this like.
Looking to see who they're talking to.
Yes,
Yeah, wow.
yes. So he goes, what's up, man? So we started talking, and he goes, after this, we're going to go to DJ Fuse's house. So we went to Oakland. We were at DJ Fuse's house. Pac was there. Money B was there. Shock was there. And we took pictures. And it was funny because either nobody asked him or he didn't want to get in them, but Pac was there. At that time, he was about 19 years old.
Okay.
And,
Is this pre-juice then?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes. And I remember he had the Gumby hairstyle, and he had a bunch of like the African medallions.
Right. I remember that. Okay.
Yeah, and I remember he had a dope Digital Underground jacket, man. It was almost like one of those jackets that Treasure wore on the OPP.
Oh, right.
video.
Wow.
Yeah, he had a long trench coat, and he had a Digital Underground patches. Wow. It was dope, man. But he was a real quiet guy, man. So
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So after seeing the movie, and then like, okay, so Pac blowing up after that, you see the movie.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any like aspirations of maybe trying to get back into that avenue, or just kept doing music? Like, well,
yes, I did. It was funny because I had somewhat of a bad experience. It was weird. They wanted to open up their own record label because they wanted to start now. All the music that they're going to use in their movies, they want to own. Okay?
makes sense. Smart.
Cool. I understand that. So they had a rapper, which I'll leave unnamed because he's a very well-known rapper. I'll give a hint. He's Muslim. And they asked me, give me some demos. We got a rapper we're going to sign to our label. And he's gonna do a song for a documentary called American Pimp.
Okay.
And I said, okay, cool. I did some beats. He really liked them. Both of them really liked them. So they said, we got our office in Hollywood. Come down and meet with us. I want you to meet the rapper so you can work with them, build some kind of chemistry. Back then, we built chemistry with rappers. Today, people email verses.
Yeah.
No. So I met the guy, real cool guy. We sat down in the lobby. We waited. Both of them came out and said, oh, hey, so you met Tony A. And he said, no, he's not here yet. And then they said, no, that's him. Yeah. And the guy said, oh, I thought he was black. That's what he said. And I was like, oh, okay. And he says, well, can I talk to you guys for a second? So they went had a little meeting. Albert came back and tells me, you know what? He doesn't want to work with you.
Wow.
You can kind of guess. I said, no problem. I had a second meeting where I did many songs, like instrumentals, that they were going to use for that American Pimp.
Okay.
But they ended up going with using old school, old songs instead of new stuff.
Okay. Okay.
So that's pretty much around the last time that I've actually talked to them. I will see them every once in a while here and there, just shake hands and stuff like that. But there was a time in my music career that I took a break, and I think that's when I lost touch with everybody.
I see. And you said that you actually took a break for family. So you like to more like because a lot of people won't do that. A lot of people have that money coming in. You said 5,000 a beat. I know guys that kill
Yes.
to get 5,000 a beat right now. Like if you can pay them over there, they would kill for that. So to maybe take a step away from that and focus on family. Can you let us know kind of your thoughts behind that?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what motivated me to do that. I went to again. I was friends with a lot of guys. I never burned my bridges with anybody. I was always kind with everyone because you never know who's gonna blow up, who's not. You can't hate on anybody in this game.
Right.
Okay. This guy, multi-platinum artist, invited me to his house and he cooked for me. Great cook, by the way. Lived in Calabasas. So we're out there, and he has this huge wall full of pictures, like family pictures, from top to bottom, top to bottom. I saw his wife, his kids. They were in London, China, everywhere, Disneyland. And as he was cooking, I walked through that whole wall, and I looked, and I finally realized that he wasn't in any of those pictures. None of them. So I called him and said, "Hey, man, you're not in none of these pictures." And he looked, and he had a spatula, and he was like, "No, I am in here. I am in here." He didn't find himself, so he finished cooking. He goes, "I'm gonna go shower. I'll be back down. We'll grub." Cool. His girl comes down, and she heard the conversation, and she said, "He's not in any of those pictures because he never wanted to go with us anywhere."
Oh wow.
So I was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "I don't want to start." And she goes, "No, it's okay. That's why we're growing apart because his whole life is his music. It's not his wife. It's not his kids. It's us." And then when he does take us on to do a show, he'll give us money to get lost while he does his thing.
Wow. Okay.
So at that point in time, I thought to myself, wow, as of right now, that's me, because my relationship with my children's mother at that time was, I'm going to be out of town. What do you want me to do?
Right.
You know, I'm DJing tonight. And there was no more time with my kids. My kids were babies at the time. So I remember I came home and I said, "I'm going to sign up my son for football." And she says, "Fine, because he's always asking about you. I had 2 kids at the time. He's always asking about you. He's always this, he's always that, and you never spend any time with them." So I started going to all of his practices, and I started coaching. And he had a very successful football career. Pop Warner, 4 championships, 2 nationals. He got to play football inside the Staples Center. He got to play football in Florida.
Wow.
He got to play teams from Chicago, New York. And because I wanted to invest in my kids, I got to see my daughter cheerlead. My daughter now, because I supported her, is now the cheer coach for one of the biggest high schools in the South Bay, which is Banning High School.
Oh wow. Okay.
So she's the cheer coach for varsity and JVs. And my other daughter is in the Air Force right now in New Jersey. My other son, I was there for him. He's now a manager at 18 years old at a Domino's. So it helps to invest in your family, even if it causes you to lose connection with everybody else. Here's the funny part, okay? When I finally said, I'm going to come back to this music thing, okay? I remember this one wise old man told me one day, "Forget this music thing. It'll always be here, man. It was here before you got here, and it'll be here after." So I said, okay, cool. I remember when I finally came back, almost about 11 years later, I called up my old manager, Greedy Greg, and I said, "Hey, man, I'm going to come through today." He goes, "Wow, Tony A's going to come see me? Wow. Oh, man, I haven't seen you in years." And he was being sarcastic. All right, cool. I showed up. High C was there, AMG was there, Second to None was there, Sugar Free was there, and Quick was there.
Wow.
Okay, and as I'm walking in, they're leaving. Quick sees me, "Tony A, how are you?" And I'm like, "I'm good." He goes, "Here, take this." Okay, And he gives it to me, and it's the instant replay machine where they call the music. He goes, come on, come with us. He said, we got a show in L.A. You could DJ for us.
Wow, so you just picked up right there. Huh?
Right there and then, bro. And an hour later, here I am playing Safe and Sound and all these songs, and I'm like, shit, I just got back into it.
Eat that quick. That's incredible, right?
Yeah. It was almost like I'd never even left, to be honest with you, man. So...
That's too funny. So, okay, so now I want to get into, you have a documentary coming out. I want to make sure we get enough time to explore the documentary because it's kind of a West Coast legendary thing. You're kind of showing how a lot of people got their mixtapes out, how a lot of people got their music out. A lot of people don't know the story. So I want to make sure that you get a lot of time to highlight this because this is very important for me, for West Coast history. It's very important. And then it's very important that you decided, I want to you to talk about how you came to the idea, why you didn't think this person was getting enough recognition, just kind of how did you come to this whole documentary, and then explain to us the whole theory behind it.
Well, this guy Steve was very instrumental in my life. Like, not only was other than my mother, my father, my brothers and sisters, my immediate family, he was probably the next closest person to me because I've known him since I've been 11. Every connection, every person that I met in this industry was through him. Was through him. And he poured himself out into our projects. Anything we wanted, anything we needed, he was there for us. He had a freak accident. He passed away. And I was real saddened because he was a guy that I would call. A lot of people don't know that he was going to a major university studying psychology. But when he found out that he could make more money selling records at the swap meet and distributing them nationwide, he stopped going to school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because he did the math. I'm making more money. So it was him and his wife that were a team, Steve and Susan. And what would happen was I went to a Q&A session a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, about a year after he passed. And these people were considered the godmothers, the godfathers of West Coast hip hop. They were all there. And they were all sharing what they contributed to West Coast hip hop. They had a Q&A session where somebody asked, is there anybody not here that should have been here, or that maybe you guys might have left out? And everybody said, no, everybody's here. Well, I knew for a fact that every single one of those people up there knew Steve. And every single one of those people would literally tell Steve, Steve, sell my record. Steve, can you sell them on consignment? Steve, can you put my rapper on a mixtape? Steve this, Steve that. And I remember, for an example, Alonzo. He'd tell me, man, I need you to sell me some of my records. And Steve would buy like 300 of each of those records. He goes, I'm going to sell them, in Louisiana. I'm going to sell them here. I'm because I got hookups out there. So everybody kind of, went through Steve. He was the record guy. So I confronted them after this Q&A session, and I asked them, hey, man, how come you guys didn't mention Steve? And they all said, you know what, you're right. You're right. It must have slipped our mind. We should have. Every single one of them said that. So at that time, that's when I thought, I'm going to do a documentary. So I called up his wife, and I said, can I do a documentary on his life? Her first answer was no. And I was shocked. And I told her, this is what he means to me. And she said this, I don't want you to do a documentary on his life, but you can do a documentary on Steve, the vendor, the mixtape guy.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And include yourself in it, Tony, because you were a huge part in it. And you were a guy that nobody ever gives credit to. So, because whenever they mention the mixtapes, it's always just Dr. Dre. I mean, on my tape, Dre rapped on them, Q rapped on them, Eazy-E rapped on them, but they never seemed to mention me. So, I was talking to a well-known artist, older artist, and when I interviewed him, he told me, I'm going to tell you something, Tony. He goes, and please don't take this wrong. He said, but that hip-hop is pretty much a black industry. You know that. He goes, and you being a Latino, Steve being a Japanese, you guys never get so much credit because, at least in our eyes, you guys are minorities. This is our thing. He said, but we have to realize that we have Latinos since day one that have contributed to hip hop. He goes, and even people like Steve, he said, and I'm glad you're doing this, and that's why I'm here to contribute that everything you're documenting is true. He was a huge part, especially to NWA. And this guy was one of the members of World Class Wrecking Crew. And he said the NWA stuff hit the mixtapes first before it hit the streets, or before it went on vinyl. Steve would test that out on those mixtapes. People liked it. He would go back and tell Dre, Boys in the Hood is your cut.
Right. Whatever
You
the
know?
people are feeling, this is going to be successful.
Because we had no radio play. We had one radio station on AM, which was K-Day.
Right.
And you had to get good reception to listen to it. That was it. So we had outlets. Now, somebody asked me, and I don't think they were trying to be smart or sarcastic. They asked me, well, why a documentary on mixtape? What makes these tapes so unique? Why everybody's made mixtapes? And I said, true. But who can say that they have a collection of about 80 tapes that had Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, NWA, Michelle, JJ Fad, Tone Loc, DJ Quick, Second to None, AMG. And here's the cherry on top. Every artist that rapped on those mixtapes went gold or platinum.
Right. Yeah. So they had a very successful career after those mixtapes and whatever. And that's kind of like, even like, you would figure that's more of a documentation, more of like the kind of like a early West Coast Bible of rap. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, those mixtapes you have, everybody's getting their style right. They're, kind of getting the feel right, whatever. And you guys have a kind of collection before they got on whatever.
And it was funny. I took my son to an interview one time, and the guy on Dash Radio, and one of the guys my son never been interviewed, but he told my son to sit down. He said, throw on the headphones. I'm going to ask you a question. So he said, how do you feel about your dad's mixtapes? And he said this. He said, my dad never wanted to talk about it, but he would share with me all the stories. He said, and I told him, why don't you tell people this? Why are you hiding this? Why? He goes, and his response was, nobody cares. And then I realized when he was talking, that's when Steve used to tell me the same thing. Steve, why don't you document this? Who cares? And I was carrying that on. He goes, but he said, now I want to challenge, because there's a lot of DJs out there. What DJ out there, he goes, especially my dad being Mexican, what DJ can say that they have mixtapes with all of these legends? He said, none. He said, my dad is probably the only guy in the world that has ever done mixtapes with these guys all together collectively on a mixtape collection. He goes, I'm sure somebody can probably say, oh, I did a mixtape and maybe so-and-so rapped on it. He goes, but maybe that's just one. This is an entire collection, and one guy's a billionaire.
Right.
And he goes, who can say that? He goes, so that's what makes these stories and these mixtapes so special, and my dad being a part of it. And I never saw it that way. And I guess I had to take my son to say it.
Right, to kind of show it to you.
Yeah, to show it to me, because I thought to myself, like, wow. I always thought, honestly, who cares? I'll just keep it to I would have took all these stories to the grave with me, but it took somebody like him to see it and say, Dad, there's people that are interested.
And I got to agree with your son. Like, I honestly think the reason why a lot of people don't get, I guess, maybe the West Coast story or whatever is because a lot of times it's not being told, or a lot we don't really know what's happening or how it kind of came to be. So, like, talking to you and you're actually saying, oh, okay, well, this is how it started. I started here, I started there, I met these people did this to that, is kind of like connecting the dots. Especially I'm a West Coast underground MC, and to find out how they got started and how the West Coast really got itself started. I mean, my mom tore out many NWA tapes. All right, she ripped them up as soon as she listened to them, heard me, whatever. So she ripped up many NWA tapes. But to find out, okay, this is how it worked. This is how, like you said, the Boys in the Hood. This is going to work for you because the neighborhood co-signs this one, and you're part of that as well. And you're coming around putting together these artists that you don't know are going to be like that. But it's just a great way that you documented it for us. That I'm thinking I like kind of call myself a purist, like hip hop or whatever. That I want to know everything that happened in the beginning. So it's great that you're telling the story, and then like I said, even I got some better stories that he didn't tell us off the camera, but he just but to tell us the story and just to learn the history of it is incredible. Like, I'm glad that you just even share it with us, and even the documentary, being able to, because a lot of people don't know about how they got their start. So you creating a documentary, you say interviewed 20 people, I think.
Yes, 20 different people.
And getting 20 different answers, 20 different histories on what happened, how it started, the swap meet it was at, and that's incredible.
It's funny because this story, when we talk about West Coast hip hop, okay, I was in New York not too long ago. Within the last year, I've been in New York like 4 times, and I got a good friend out there. He's a DJ host. He interviews a lot of people from Cardi B to Wu-Tang. Matter of fact, he DJs for Raekwon. He'll be out here next month DJing, touring with Rakim.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I asked them a question on his show. I said, when you guys think of West Coast hip hop, if you guys were to think of documentaries, what comes to mind? And everybody there in the room said this: NWA, Death Row. And that's pretty much where it stops.
That's it. Wow.
Yeah, and I said, wow. And then they kind of said, okay, maybe a little Tupac. That's what they said. But it's mostly all we hear is NWA, Death Row. And I said, and if you really think about it, a lot of those are the same guys.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Same story. Basically.
So I was sharing that this was before. I said, if you want to call it the prequel,
right? Okay.
This is what this is. So that's why, if people want to know a certain part of the truth or a lot of what took place before the record deals, this is it.
Nice. And that's actually documented in your documentary too, kind of everything that started there. And then where can they actually find the information? So the documentary's out. Do you have it out everywhere? How can we find it?
I have a Facebook, I have a Instagram, I have a YouTube page, and I have a regular website. I always tell people that if you go to my Instagram, which is Tony A the Wizard, it's Tony_A_DA, like the _wizard. If you find me on there, on my bio is my website. Once you go to my website, it has every platform where you can reach me. Okay. So I'm rarely on Facebook. 90% I'm just on Instagram. Eventually, when this documentary comes out, I'll get a Twitter. But as of right now, I have a YouTube. My YouTube is Tony Vision. Like I said, my website is called The Documixery or documixery.com. We're calling it a documixery, not a documentary, since this is about mixtapes.
Right. Okay. We got the documentary kind of documented the history of West Coast hip hop, your involvement with West Coast hip hop. What is the next stage for you now? What is next for you? What do you plan on doing? You plan on staying in hip hop, maybe make some more mixtapes, or what is the next move?
Well, my next move after this documentary comes out, by the way, it's a 3-hour documentary. We just recently shrunk it down to 1 hour so that we can show it at theaters. Okay, we're going to enter into some film festivals and eventually give a release date, but it will be released this year. So my next move is this. There's a huge market out there for Chicano rap. Okay, I am not a fan of Chicano rap. I'll be the first one to say that. But I contacted about 8 guys that are, if you will, have a huge fan base for Chicano rap. I've gone to New York. People have heard of Chicano rap. I've gone to Denver, Texas, and a lot of people are familiar with this, if you will, this style of rapping, if you will. So I want to do a documentary to shed a little bit of light on it. Not necessarily, and again I say this, that I am a fan of it, because I really don't like. I think a lot of these guys that are rapping it shouldn't be rapping.
Okay.
I'm just being real with you.
No,
but for some reason, there's a market out there for it. So I'm going to tap into that market and shed a little bit of light on how it started, who pretty much fathered it, where is it going, next. Why hasn't a Latino or Chicano, whatever you want to call it, ever made it to the stature of a Snoop Dogg, Eazy-E, a Game? Why is that? And yet there's so many
right
out there. So after that, I want to do another one, a follow-up to the Rodeo Mixtape documentary, because on this documentary, I did the hip-hop tapes. I still have a different genre of tapes that I did called electro funk.
Okay.
So I want to do the fast Planet Rock, play at your own risk, looking for the perfect beat type of stuff.
Okay.
So I would like to do the follow-up on the Rodeo Mixtape documentary, electro funk. After that, I want to, and all of this I have written down now, and these are my goals. Another one called 76 in Crenshaw. Now, the reason why I call it Crenshaw is because Compton, Hollywood, South Central are pretty much known all over the world.
Right.
And so the name Crenshaw. Quick's manager, Gritty Craig, lives off of 76th and Crenshaw in Inglewood. Okay. In that house, when he met Quick, he went pretty much and sold his car, took his money out of the bank, and invested in Quick.
Wow, okay.
He recorded Quick there at that house, Second to None, AMG, High C, Eazy-E, Players Penthouse, Domino, Moke and Steph, Puffy has been there.
Wow.
So many artists have recorded there. Literally, so many artists. And in that house, and I said, that was done all in the early 90s. That's something else that should be documented, that this house was converted to a studio, that somehow this house touched the world.
Yeah. Connected to a lot of people that are hip hop.
Yeah, so he said, run with it, Tone. And I said, I'm going to call it 76 and Crenshaw. That's what I'm going to do. So eventually, if you ever want to open up the studio again for somebody to just want to say, I want to record it with Quick once in a while.
Right, right.
You know, you can, or it could be considered a historical site, whatever you want. He was with it. My next project, and none of them are in order.
Right, just
But
kind of what you have on
yes,
deck.
I really would like to do a scary movie. I really, because I was raised with scary movies, and I have a lot of ideas for scary movies. Everybody just thinks that Tony is just all about hip hop, DJing, and mixtapes. No, I have a lot of things that I want to let out and hopefully share with the world, man.
Nice, nice. And so, do you think you're getting more into that film, the visual side of it?
Yes, I mean, of course, music would always be a part of my life because the film and music go hand in hand.
Right.
But I think this is a transition in my life where I left DJing at one point, I went to producing, and now I'm doing filming, and I love filming. It's like new. It's like when I left DJing and I started producing, it was like new, and now this is something new to me.
I think filming is the first time I get a feeling like recording me. Like I used to get a song and I would get home and I listen to it 100 times. And now when me and Michael shoot a video or shoot a film, I'll watch it 1,000 times. Like I think it's the first time I found something besides music that gives me that same euphoric, like, oh wow, like that's the first time it's filming on that.
Absolutely. I mean, because we grew up watching movies. We grew up watching, whether they were scary, whether they were drama, they were romance or crime movies, but we would see certain shit, that's dope. Oh, how did they do that? And now with technology, we have the ability to recreate what we saw,
Right.
And let the world see what's coming from within us, And I think that's what Dre did with his music.
Right. Okay.
It was in it, and it was in him, and he just let it all out, and we got to hear it. But now we have the ability to let people see it, And one thing that I've learned that 90% of the learning comes through the eyes. So
right, true.
visuals are everything.
Everything, and I think, like I said, the feeling that you get from seeing those type of visuals or that image that you could put in someone's mind is like just incredible to me.
Just off the mixtapes, for an example. The guy that I talk about, his name's DJ Thorough, a good friend of mine, lives in Harlem, grew up in Harlem. Who would have ever thought that through a mixtape that I did in 1988, was done in the bedroom of my house, they sold it in Gardena, would reach all the way to Harlem. And now this guy has had 5 passports, he's run around the world 5 times, DJ for Wu-Tang, for Raekwon, for Cameron, Jazzo, for Rakim, for a lot of these greats, works for 50 Cent. When I finally met him, he told me, you and DJ Red Alert are the reason why I'm DJing.
Wow.
And how I met him was through MySpace.
Oh, wow.
He messaged me on MySpace and he says, hey, are you Tony the Wizard? And I said, yeah. So he took a picture of the cassette and sent it to me. He goes, are you the one responsible for 80 Boom and Bass? And I go, yeah, I did that. He said, really? He goes, can I have your number? So he called me. He goes, hey, my name is DJ Thorough, blah, blah, blah. He said, I'm going to be in your hood soon. This was 2006. He goes, I'm going to be in your hood soon. He goes, I'm flying in with Raekwon. We're going to be performing at the House of Blues in Hollywood just before it closed. I said, really? He goes, yeah, it's because of you. It's why I'm DJing. I want to meet you, man.
Wow.
He said, dude, I met Oprah Winfrey. I met Michael Jordan. I don't care about them. I want to meet the guy who inspired me. And I was like, all right, we'll see.
Right.
I gave him my number. He called me. I went to the hotel, and there I met Raekwon. It was real. Everything was real, man.
Wow. That's incredible.
So now when I go to New York, that's like where I stay.
Wow. Okay, so you really developed the rapport with him.
Yeah, and it all started with the mixtape.
The mixtape, yeah, that's what me that you started.
Yeah, I remember when the first time I got there, he took me into the Bronx, and he took me to this lived like a big old apartment building, and I kind of looked familiar, and I said, "What's this?" And he said, "This is where hip hop started. DJ Kool Herc, DJ this
Oh,
first
when they had
party
the first party? Whoa! You went to that?
I went to that, bro.
That's incredible.
Took pictures, took film, took everything, and he told me, he goes, "Yeah, man." He goes, "Look, hip hop's about 45 years old, man." And I was like, "Wow!" And then when I thought about it, I'm like, shoot, yeah, it's true, man. But that's where it all started.
That's it. I see pictures of it. I have the copy of the old flyer that he had, that he printed out. The DJ Herc.
Yes, Kool Herc.
Kool Herc. Yeah, man, my bad. DJ Kool Herc. Don't want to whatever. He follows me on Instagram, so I don't want to mess that up. Just like I want to be around that energy. I really love to see that one day, just to be around that energy.
I mean, if you really think about it, because like I told him, I said, this right here is kind of like the hip hop Garden of Eden.
Right.
The Garden of Eden said that it had 4 rivers that fed other gardens, and I'm thinking to myself, it fed the Brooklyn, it fed Queens, it fed Harlem, it fed everywhere, and then the world.
Right.
The world, that one party triggered all of that.
And everybody embraces it so much. You go everywhere and you see hip hop everywhere you go, every country,
Everywhere.
whatever. So
I mean, who would have thought that style of music would possibly be the most influential, or that you could actually become a multi-millionaire
off of doing that? They thought it was a fad. I remember they thought it was
Yes.
kind of a joke, like, oh, this will happen 2 or 3 years. I remember you had people selling cardboard boxes for the breakers, whatever. You would go into a store and they had the
Yes.
flat cardboard boxes. They would sell them to you. And it was like, oh, this will be over in 2 or 3 years, and then watch out to go from basically it's supposed to be nothing to the number 1 genre. I feel proud to be part of it. I'm not like major or whatever, but I just feel proud to be like in part of that and see it grow from beginning. Like basically, it's been with me my whole life. So to watch it grow from that to where it is now, multimillionaires, people in movies, people doing productions, all these people
Yes.
just creating businesses off of it is just incredible to me.
My main goal out of doing what I did was for 2 things: that Steve's name, Steve Yano, just a swamp meat vendor from the city of Whittier, that his name will never be lost in West Coast hip hop history, and that one day that those mixtapes will be in a museum.
That's dope. That's super dope. Well, I don't want to keep you any longer. I know your family's probably looking for you. You actually gave me a little insight for my family. I know because I work really hard. And I told my wife some of that stuff that you said earlier. So shout out to my wifey for understanding. But no, I love that you kind of shared that with me. Thank you very much for coming to the Mike Sounds Nice podcast. We got Tony A. the Wizard in the house, dropping jewels. Thank you for coming out. Appreciate
Thank you, brother.
My brass monkey filled up in that little red cup. I got the type of the cup, show they twerking it up. My cousin got the split rolled up and now I'm taking a puff. Got my head right, big off with honey dips so fine. The mic in my head, she asked me, yo, spit a rhyme. I got 16 for days and my brain's in the haze. So I spit out the clever mic, the middleman free. All the hands go up, yo, they start to wave. I'm feeling too, yo, I gotta admit. Watch my girl dance, shake her hips, cause I like that shit. See, we find us a room so we could duck out and dip. Start the process of filling up a shirt real quick. The room's all booked with peace from the same thought. So go back to our crib and get close in the car. I find my peace.